Basically, these names that Patrick Fitzgerald and who was a Chicago U.S. attorney, and Agent Robert Wright, who also was in charge of the Chicago FBI investigation into Yasin Qadi.
Mm-hmm.
You might remember that Agent Robert Wright knew Fitzgerald, of course, and had said right after 9/11, he stood on the steps of the Capitol in June 2002, and he burst into tears and said if his investigation into Yasin Qadi and PTEC and BMI hadn't been shut down and stymied, there would not have been a 9/11.
Right.
And I keep coming back to that. What exactly did he know? And here's what he knew. We need to talk about there were 5 people within PTEC who not only worked at extremely high levels in PTEC, they were, for example, high enough that there were one of 2 people who had access to source code, but they also ran something called CARE International. Now, the first question is, with a slew of charities on the 9/11 list as designated as terror fronts, why was CARE International left out? Now, this is not the big CARE International. This is a CARE International that was run out of PTEC. CARE, this is the one that was based in Boston, Massachusetts. And what we found out about CARE is that CARE's addresses were the same addresses used by the Muslim Brotherhood organization that was located, for example, in Brighton, Massachusetts, and on Prospect Street in Cambridge, Massachusetts. We have the PTEC names affiliated with PTEC and CARE International, what I call the PTEC CARE International, the Muslim Brotherhood CARE International. Suhail Laher was a co-founder and member of the Muslim Brotherhood and PTEC and CARE International. Mohammed Mubayad was the treasurer, member of the Muslim Brotherhood and PTEC, and he was also connected to World Trade Center bombing of '93. I wonder how Special Prosecutor Patrick Fitzgerald could have missed that in his prosecution of Inam or not.
Mm-hmm.
Mohammed Akra was the president of CARE International. Now, these people were under investigation by the Boston FBI prior to 9/11. Akra himself was on the FBI terror watch list. Another name that came up was Samir Al-Monla. All of these people were involved with the core people that founded and ran PTEC. Now, on September 5, 2001, 1 week before 9/11, 2 Muslim Brotherhood companies, and I will call PTEC a Muslim Brotherhood companies, and Infocom, they were related by these terrorist connections that included Inam Arnott. Now, on September 5th, PTEC was moving, and I believe in that move they destroyed and hit a lot of records, and a company and technology company in Richardson, Texas, by the name of Infocom was raided.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Infocom is very interesting because they were ISPs to many, many of these organizations that were involved with bringing us a number of terrorist attacks, including 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly, he was ISP to Anthony El-Gindi, the person that was allegedly allegedly placed the airline 9/11 puts, and who was the subject of other lawsuits and convicted several times by the SEC and so on.
Wasn't this Infocom also involved in distribution of child pornography? Was that another outfit?
It was. There were ISP to someone involved, or an organization involved with pornography.
I heard that. I just wanted to ask you if that was true. Okay, go ahead.
Now, Infocom was also, by the way, ISP to Al Jazeera, and we believe that they were shut down by the FBI simply because there were some very good people there that would have spilled the beans.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were a lot of reasons to shut them down. Now, let's go back to Boston and the Muslim Brotherhood layers there. Prospect Street, a Muslim Brotherhood hangout, was also where Dr. Osama Kandil was hanging out with the CARE and PTEC people. Kandil runs Biofarm in Herndon, Virginia, and that was a matter of great concern because of the bioterror aspects of this whole terror blueprint. Mohammed Akra, who was president of CARE, the interesting thing is he had a base in College Station, Texas. These guys were not only in Richardson, but in College Station, Texas. You know what college that refers to, the college is Texas A&M.
A&M, yeah.
which is Bush's
Alma mater.
Alma mater.
Yeah.
And well, prior to 9/11, Accra, everyone is moving. The week before 9/11, all of these guys in the Muslim Brotherhood are on the move. He flees to the Sudan. He cancels his credit cards. And there is another Accra in Dallas who is from Nigeria. This is kind of interesting because this is part of the threads that connect for me into this rope of terror that's got this nation and the world, under its grip.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to probably come back to this, but Nigeria features very heavily in the Cheney money laundering bribery scandal that the French are going to probably indict him for.
Mm-hmm.
Now, going back to Dr. Kandil, who was with the Muslim Brotherhood and with all the PTEC people and CARE International people, he's connected with Dr. Samuel Ariane of Tampa. So Kandil and Accra are co-located at the same address in Cambridge, and so are the PTEC people.
Uh-huh.
And what else do they have in common? Well, what they have in common is in this warehouse district in Braintree, Massachusetts. Now, this area and this warehouse and this trucking company that runs out of there are affiliated, according to the FBI and private investigator sources, to the Whitey Bulger mob. And
that's significant.
It's very significant because the Boston FBI rated by the organization that rates FBI considers the Boston FBI as one of the most corrupt in the nation because they basically let the mob run wild with the murders and whatever else.
Yeah.
But going back to this address in Braintree, Massachusetts, listed there are a bunch of names and 5 companies. 5 companies where the people running these companies are closely affiliated with PTEC. One of the companies we've just talked about is CARE International. Another one is Ecom. Another one is Logan Furniture. Another one is Bannon Information Technology. Now, the interesting thing about these things is that they all share the same address. It's a warehouse. Now, it's one room in a warehouse. If you go, now I visited 20 Plain Street, Braintree, some time ago, and I went there and went inside and went upstairs, and it's basically just a warehouse. There are no offices.
Mm-hmm.
And the companies located there share one huge warehouse. And when you take a look at what's going on there, there's a lot of trucking in and out. I walked up to the Logan Furniture people, and I spoke with them. I asked them, well, why do you call this Logan Furniture? He said, because of Logan Airport. And the person who runs Logan Furniture is an Imad Muntasser, and his name comes up all over the Muslim Brotherhood terror financing and other operatives.
Mm-hmm.
So Bannon Information Technology, these are all fronts. They're all cutouts. They're just names. Bannon Information Technology is actually a Texas incorporated company with an address at 20 Plain Street and in the Sudan. And also co-located there is something called the Geneva Capital Group.
Ooh.
And the Geneva Capital Group is kind of interesting because it's connected with a small Wall Street company with none other than Khalilzad in charge. Khalilzad, that name comes up in the Bush administration regarding Afghanistan and ambassadors and people in key positions in Afghanistan and in
Iraq.
Basically Iraq.
Yeah.
Now, what we have here is part of an elaborate money laundering scheme. They were involved with not only smuggling to Bosnia and Chechnya, but they were involved with smuggling to Switzerland, Lebanon, you name the Middle Eastern country. They were shipping stuff back and forth from there. But at this point, we need to stop and see what we have. The people behind this quad of companies, through their associations, have well-publicized and historical access right into both President Bush and into President Clinton's administration.
Mm.
Now, and this is a matter of not of conspiracy theory.
No.
These are accusations and these are charges were brought against all of these people in court.
Mm-hmm.
but we are going to move now into the other aspect of what was going on with Bannon information technology that has never been made public in CARE International.
Okay.
When I started investigating CARE International, they still had a website up. When I started investigating Bannon information technology, their website had come down. When we took a look at these websites, it was clear that there was no business being run out of these. They were just fronts. A private investigative firm investigated both websites, and took a look at it and deconstructed it, and came across some very strange pages. The pages they determined were quite likely used for conveying information through the use of steganography. Now, steganography is a technique that Al-Quada and the 9/11 operatives used quite extensively. And what it means, how that works is as follows. You can have a page on a website and a picture, and embedded in the picture are basically documents, other instructions, text messages, emails, Word documents, whatever the content can be embedded in there. And if anyone looks at the website, all they see is a harmless-looking picture.
Right. I've heard this stuff before. This is kind of super spy kind of stuff, isn't it?
It's absolutely super spy stuff, and at the time that I looked at it, you can pretty much tell what is used for steganography to the practiced eye is something that I've I've had some skills in it myself, going back to the mid '80s, actually to the late '80s and early '90s, and so you begin to recognize what it is. And sure enough, when I was being debriefed at CERT, the Carnegie Mellon Institute that worked with the Secret Service on cyber crimes, of which they considered PTEC to be a cyber crime because of the software, being promised to, as they suspected. We looked at these sites, and these experts looked at it and said steganography. It doesn't take a rocket scientist in this day and age to figure something like that out. And there is software that will deconstruct the images and, you could at least find that something is there, even if you can't decode it.
Right.
So, one of the pages was extraordinarily significant, because once you sort of navigated your way through it, you went to lower and lower levels, and all of a sudden there were a set of pages where the code word Babylon was featured very heavily. So again, this is a point to stop and say, well, what do we have here? Mm-hmm. We have here a set of companies that have been covered up, that had ties to Geneva, ties to Wall Street, ties to Khalizad, ties that were on FBI lists in both Boston and Chicago, where good FBI agents were stymied in their efforts to research them. And at the core of these companies in Braintree is a code word for an operation called Babylon. Now, what is significant about this, when we started looking at it, is that Babylon, of course, is Iraq. And the significant about this is that these people funding the smuggling of stuff, they were smuggling it into the areas around Iraq and into Iraq itself. When I first came across this and the WMD search in Iraq, I thought that for sure they would find it, because from what I could see, we were shipping it to them. Mm-hmm. And if not in Iraq, then definitely around Iraq. And when we thought about what would be useful to be shipped from the United States, well, it wouldn't be uranium or things like that. It would be enabling technologies, blueprints to build WMDs.